Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and I was thinking, since we got two 1200 CCF tier 3s, this update with Proxima and Ebony coming to the game and getting those big upgrades, on top of the fact that we still have a drought of content before the fabled sneak peeks for whatever the next update is going to be, it's a great time to revisit all of the 1200 plus CCF tier 3s and rank them. Now, this is basically all the characters in the game that you can tier 3 that cost more than the base of 800. However, I do want to make a couple of things clear before I go ahead. Obviously, standard PSA, this is just my opinion with these videos. You can feel free, and with this game with 240 plus characters, you can tier 3 whoever you want. You can even not tier 3 characters. You could probably go through the vast majority of the content with only transcended characters, so keep that in mind. However, I will be doing a couple of things differently. So I'm going to be ranking them individually within the group, not individually. I'm going to be ranking them within their groups of cost. So instead of, combining the native tier 3s with the 1200 CCF with the 1600 CCFs, which kind of doesn't make sense, I'm going to be doing one group of 3 for the native tier 3s, one group of 8, and one group of 8. It's actually really nicely and neatly divided. There are 8 current existing 1200 CCF tier 3s and 8 current existing 1600 CCF tier 3s. I'm also going to be giving you guys a little bit of pointers, or like just making note here and there of characters that cost 1600 CCF, but the rest of their cost can sort of be balanced or at least done side by side in the case of mutant tier 3. So even though, Apocalypse and Jean Grey are 1600 CCFs, you can climb and build them most of the way with feathers. So you may be able to do that simultaneously, side by side at the same time, with a tier 3 or a transcendent character or whatever that's 800 or 1200 CCF cost. That's black antimatter, so keep that in mind as well. Anywho, I'm also going to be pointing out, PvP, PvE, all that good stuff. So first things first, I'm not going to do a huge spiel on this, but I'm going to get these 3 bad boys out of the way. There's still a lot of debate over which one of them is the best. I think now people have really settled on either Mephisto or Null, because we all know that Sentry is just the best for PvP. I have a dedicated video for who I think is the best, but I still think that the video that I made is correct. I think it's stood the test of time, which has only been like a month or two, but I do think Null is the best overall native tier 3, and then Mephisto, and then Sentry. But I will say this, if you are obviously big into PvP, Sentry is going to be the best for you, no questions asked. Mephisto is going to be the second best for you, and then Null's probably going to be the worst if you're huge into PvP. On the flip side, if you're huge into ABX, and you don't really care about pushing other content, Mephisto is going to be the best for you, then Null, then Sentry. So there's actually 3 different ranking, like literally all 3 of these characters can be ranked first, second, or third, depending on whether you're looking at it from the perspective of, World Boss and World Boss Legend PvE content, which I think Null is the best at, or whether you're looking at it from the perspective of PvP, which Sentry's the best at, or whether you're looking at it from ABX, whereas Mephisto's going to be the best at it. The other thing I want to say between Null and Mephisto specifically, because I get asked this question a lot, and a lot of people seem to side more with Mephisto, I think Mephisto can take advantage of a reforged CTP better than Null can, at least for now. There's still actually people who don't know or don't want to learn how to play Null or don't want the RNG of playing Null with an energy, so they just slap a rage on him, which I do think sort of weakens him and lowers his overall damage output. But yeah, I do think that is going to be a reason why some people will side with Mephisto. But if you're talking, straight normal CTPs, I do think that Null edges out Mephisto in that category. So yeah, you can rank them 1, 2, 3, but my ranking would be, from Mephisto to Sentry would be 2, 1, 3 for their respective rankings. Moving on to the 1200 CCFs. We're going to do the 1200 CCFs first, and then we're going to move... Actually, you know what? This doesn't make sense. Let's do the 1600 CCFs, and then the last one we'll do is the 12. So we'll go from most expensive to least expensive. And of course, Sentry costs a little bit less CCF than Null and Mephisto, but he has the whole epic quest to get through. So, they sort of cost a similar amount when all said and done. So as far as the 1600 CCF goes, these are the most expensive characters in the game, on top of the fact that most of these 1600 CCF characters have an additional price tag associated with them. So you really got to take that into consideration. And I made the joke at the beginning of the video, but I'm not actually joking. You can get through the vast majority of the content in this game on just transcended characters, or you could expand it to just transcended and 800 CCF tier 3s. Every character needs their uniform, that's absolutely true. But in Dormammu and Odin's case, as 1600 CCF tier 3s, you're also going to have to purchase the character if you're not a veteran who unlocked them years ago for free. You got to purchase them for 2,500 crystals up front. You could wait for a sale for them to be cheaper, but still. Molecule Man, you got to finish the Sentry Epic Quest, my dude. This dude costs like 5 billion CCF. He's crazy expensive. Jean Grey, you got to fork out 5,500 crystals for Magneto. It's actually 6,600, but then you get a discount later. You got to get Magneto to tier 2 minimum, plus all the other thing. You got to finish the epic quest for that. You got to, unfortunately, get Wolverine all gussied up to level 60, tier 2. So there's a lot of cost involved there. And so you can sort of see what I'm saying, right? For her, you got to go and beat her world boss stage and unlock her that way, right? So there's a lot of cost built into basically all of the 1600 CCF tier 3s. Honestly, the cheapest 1600 CCF tier 3 is actually Silver Surfer. He may be the most annoying to purchase because of the fact that you have to play GBR over the span of 2 weeks, but it's completely free. You can buy him for crystals in the shop, but why would you? He's completely free to unlock, and honestly, even though he takes longer than, let's say, you know, Scarlet Witch or whatever, it's completely free. Whereas with Scarlet Witch, you're still gonna have to build up Quicksilver and maybe Cable, I think, before you can even get to her. You don't have to build anyone up in advance of Silver Surfer. But anyways, keeping that in mind, I think the overall best 1600 CCF tier 3 right now is Scarlet Witch. And again, it assumes the character has a max build, tier 3, newest uniform, CTP, etc. By far, the best option is Scarlet Witch. Second place is really where it starts to get kind of crazy. Honestly, you can do multiple second places, but I think it really comes down to either Silver Surfer if you lean towards PvP, or Odin if you lean towards PvE. However, I would say that Silver Surfer outperforms Odin side by side. Odin is just a little bit better. He's a lot better for World Boss Legend, and he's a little bit better maybe for Dispatch, but as far as PvP, Silver Surfer is still like the third or fourth best option, whereas Odin is not the third or fourth best option for any PvE content anymore in the game. You know, even as a universal hero, he's at least third because you've got Ghost Rider and Scarlet Witch ahead of him. So it really flip-flops between Odin and Silver Surfer, but there's definitely quite a big drop. Not quite a big drop, but there's definitely a big drop between Scarlet Witch and then the next two, which means that after Silver Surfer and Odin, there's an even bigger drop. Fourth place is probably going to be Apocalypse for me, just because he's such a rare breed of character, a combat villain, and he's very, very good, but his main value is in ABX. So if you don't care about ABX, you could probably drop him near the bottom of the list, and I would honestly question why you should tier 3 him at all if you don't care about ABX. His leadership is just not good enough as a solo investment. So there are cheaper options that we'll discuss for combat villains for ABX in a little bit when we get to that part of the ranking. Next up, I would say, is probably Jean Grey. The reason why I didn't put Jean Grey higher is because she's basically Silver Surfer minus all of the PvE value. So for me, that drops her at least below Silver Surfer, and then Apocalypse is best for ABX, so that drops her a little bit further. She's really just for PvP nowadays. I still see people asking questions. Can she do PV? Can she do null and stuff with a Rage or a Judgment? No, son. I mean, I could probably make a highlight video about her like I did for Thanos or Hulk, but she's going to be around Thanos or Hulk level. She's not going to go beyond their level. So if they weren't impressing you enough to tier 3, she wouldn't either. She's strictly a PvP character at this point, but she's still she's still a top 5 PvP character in the game. At number 6 for the 1600 CCFs, honestly, Mallhuman. Despite being super expensive, he's very, very good for PvP, and he hard counters a lot of popular characters, including Colossus. So you gotta give, if you respect Colossus, you gotta respect the counter to Colossus, and it's really all in the leadership. But as we get tankier and tankier, he'll become better and better because really survivability is his big issue. Well, damage as well as his issue, but yeah. Not having a uniform and not having the highest base stats besides the HP stat are really the two things sort of holding him back, and the fact that he's also so expensive. You're not just gonna tier 3 him. Well, if you're just gonna tier 3 him for PvP, you've got a lot of resources to spend, or you really love PvP. The bottom two here, unfortunately, are the only two left, Dormammu and Thanos. I actually ranked Thanos ahead of Dormammu because he's actually better for PvE content, in my opinion. Now, some PvE content, not all PvE content. Dormammu's good at some things, Thanos is better at other things. Like, Dormammu is far and away the best lead for 1 week of Danger Room Extreme. It's only 1 week out of the 3, so I don't want to give it too much value, but yeah. When you're facing Jean Grey and you have this lead, it's basically game over for your opponent, especially if you bring in a Moonstone on top of that. So you got to respect it. He's basically best lead for one of the 3 weeks of Danger Room. The tricky part is you can't guarantee who gets lead, so you're going to tier 3 Dormammu for 1 out of 3 weeks on the off chance that you get leadership. You can start to see how his value starts to diminish. Not really having a PvP presence despite having the Revive, despite having the Reflect and the Iframe Ignore, and never really made enough noise in PvE besides like Ebony World Boss Ultimate, not World Boss Legend stuff, and just been completely eclipsed. Like, there's just no question that he's been replaced as a universal villain for ABX, so he doesn't really have anywhere else to go. So that rounds out the list for the 1600s. We've already covered the 3000 plus CCF native tier 3s. Now the last ones on the table are the 1200 CCFs. These, in my opinion, are the best bang for your buck. Outside of Scarlet Witch, Odin, and Silver Surfer, to be honest, I do not recommend tier 3ing any of the 1600 CCF tier 3s at this point. They're just not going to bring you back enough, because you could tier 3 Jean Grey for PvP. You absolutely could. Or you could tier 3 Daredevil, and you could transcend, for the same amount of CCF, you could transcend Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. There's obviously other costs involved, but you can see what I mean from a CCF perspective. You have a whole team versus one character, and the defenders are still great for PvP. So yeah, I think the 1200 CCFs are really situated in a position where the devs are giving them enough buffs for them to compete with the higher cost characters, but they're still low cost. So coming in at number 1, we have Cable. I think he's amazing. He also has the flexibility, whether you give him an energy or a rage, between this uniform with a rage or this uniform with an energy. So I really like that flexibility, and this uniform is actually gonna probably come back on sale soon, because we're in the middle of summer right now. We're at the end of June, so we should see this uniform coming back. So if you have an energy on him and you've struggled to play with this uniform, grab this uniform when it's on sale. Well, it might not be on sale, it might be the full cost of 1500 crystals, 1800 crystals. But yeah, so he's by far the best, I think, of the 1200 CCFs. He's very, very good for a lot of PvE content. He's got a good leadership with the ignore dodge for Null and Mephisto. He's got healing, he's got, burst damage. And so yeah, I do think he's by far the best option. After him, we got some new ones, and I do think that they're worth it. So I actually think Ebony Ma is the second best 1200 CCF tier 3. He can do PvP and PvE, which is a very rare trait to have for basically any of these characters, but he's huge. He's basically on every PvP team now, so that really tells you what you need to know. And then he can still slap in PvE content, either as a leadership, support, damage dealer, or all three. So he definitely takes the cake for me as the second best. Then I would put Proxima third. Now, I know some of you guys think Proxima is better than Ebony. I personally don't. She has zero presence in PvP. She is a leadership and support for PvE, which is great, but I think her leadership is a little bit less flexible than Ebony's, because this is just a straight damage buff plus all the support buffs, whereas hers is situationally good. This will be good against certain bosses, won't be as good against other bosses where you don't need ignore dodge. However, I do think she does have a better passive than he does. Well, it's on her uniform, actually. I think it's on her uniform. I do think she has a better passive because it just gives you damage to heroes and villains, whereas Ebony's passive is only against universals. So I do think she may be a better support for PvE, but Ebony's definitely a better support for PvP, and I think he's better overall, a better character and easier to play as well. After Cable, Ebony Ma, and Proxima, I have to admit, you should really question, you should really double and triple check whether you should be tier 3ing any of these characters. Unfortunately, the remainder, the last 5 characters, 4 of which are from Epic Quests, just don't have as much value. They don't have nearly as much value. They're still good, but they have as nearly much value, especially because you got to complete the Epic Quest, which has all these other costs involved in them. It's cheaper than ever to do the Epic Quests, by the way, because they have the cost of all those characters to rank up to 5 stars, but still, it's there. Coming in at number 4, we have Doctor Strange. Hasn't really kept up with other blast types, but still the best character in the game for Shadowland, bar none. Still a great character for World Boss Ultimate, and a great leadership for World Boss Legend with the flexible attack and ignore dodge buffs. So still a good character, just sort of a step behind at this point. At number 5, I would say is Maker / Mr. Fantastic. And you could give him the edge over Doctor Strange if you want someone for PvP, or sorry, not PvP, ABX, but you don't want to invest in Apocalypse. The good thing for Maker is that you get both a combat hero and a combat villain. So that actually covers multiple days of ABX. Again, it's not necessarily for everybody, it's not everybody's flavor, but if you're looking for a value pick, this is definitely a better option for ABX guys. If you're not pushing for top scores with Apocalypse and you just want someone that's going to cover you for 5-6 million points every single time he's up and he's available, because you can just swap uniforms and have that super flexibility all in one package that is 400 CCF cheaper than Apocalypse. But yeah, he comes in at number 5. At number 6, we have Deadpool. Now this one I think is going to cause people to question me, but here's the thing. The days of needing, or the days of valuing the 85 or the 80% all defense down, they're kind of disappearing, right? All defense down is still really good for dispatch, but there's a lot of characters that can pump out 50, 60, 70% all defense down. We have 3 leaderships that can cover you the rest of the way to get to 100%. And as a speed type, Deadpool just really doesn't hit hard enough with his skills. It's really just up to you whether you need that. But personally, you know, it's like Cersei's such a good character at tier 2 for world boss. I would question why you would need Deadpool. And then we have so many other good characters that you could transcend instead of sinking 1200 CCF into Deadpool. Still a really fun character, but yeah, also having a very difficult to obtain uniform, being the best uniform for them, is you know, a tough sell. So I think Deadpool's kind of in an awkward situation. We'll see what the future holds for the character. I would personally like to see Deadpool take a different direction and maybe go more focused towards one particular game mode, like squad battle or PvP or something like that. But we'll have to see what the devs have in store for him. I honestly think he does need something. At number 7, we actually have Quicksilver, which leaves, of course, Wolverine at number 8. I'm not really going to talk much about Wolverine. Yeah, he's the worst 1200 CCF tier 3. Surprise! You go roast me in the comments. Yes, you know I love Wolverine. He's so bad. Haha, yes. Quicksilver, he's not bad. He's just not really going to do anything good. He's not going to do anything well. And like I said at the beginning of the video, there's characters that are just cheaper and better, right? If you want a speed type for PvP, Daredevil's cheaper and better. If you want a speed type for PvE, Rogue, right? Or Luna if you have her built up already. So he really just isn't doing anything better than cheaper characters. So then why would you invest in him? He has no PvP value. And yeah, and he's kind of difficult to play, so an energy is probably not the best option for him. And then rage is not as synergistic with the current meta of Pierce. So yeah, he sort of just falls behind, like a worse version of Doctor Strange type thing. So yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of the 3 list rankings. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.